Welcome to All Things Financial with Jack Driscoll. Each week, Jack takes on all things you thought were hard to understand about your finances and makes it fun, easy, but most of all interesting. From insurance to the best way to save your money and squeeze the most out of the dollars you put aside for your rainy day. And now, you have a friend in the money business. Here's your host, Jack Driscoll.
Welcome back again, everyone, to another edition of All Things Financial. I'm doing and wrapping up a series on college, how to pay for college, either financial planning with college or financial aid. So we'll be summarizing this series, this show and the next show. We'll wrap this up. And what we've talked about is one segment of a total financial plan, which is the college segment, college planning, or how to pay for college. We've gone into a lot of different areas. So to refresh some of you who have not been with us for all of this series, you could log in on YouTube and see it in some other areas. You could do your own research. But you know, when I watch the news right now, we get into a focus with financial planning into a category like this, college planning. Someone will come to me and say, I want to do retirement planning. Someone will say, I need life insurance. Someone will say different segments do tax planning, and they want to focus. And I say each of those areas is only a single component of an overall financial plan. And any issue addressed just as its own component is almost doomed to fail if anything goes wrong in any of the other areas that we didn't do adequate planning in. So my caveat and caution to everyone is do the total comprehensive financial planning to include college planning, include college funding, financial aid, include life insurance, disability protection of your family, include auto and homeowners insurance, include tax planning, long-term care planning. If your parents even need to go into a nursing home, could that disrupt your finances? Not only taking away your perceived inheritance potentially, but also would one of you have, one of the kids have to quit work to take care of mom and dad, maybe putting college planning on the back burner and never getting accomplished because the wife or the son of the parents in a nursing home, they're trying to keep their parents out of a nursing home, quit their job, now go take care of the parents and upend their own finances. So when we do any area of financial planning, we call this financial planning, and that's exactly what it should be. It starts with life planning, overall life planning, goal setting, list the risks that could occur, do an overall life plan on all your goals and dreams and objectives you're trying to accomplish. Then you do and design a financial plan, which is like a financial blueprint, just like you'd do if you were building a house. You first dream the house, you see the house, then you transfer that to paper through blueprints, and then you turn that over to contractors to accomplish your goal in all the different categories, carpenters, electricians, etc. It's the same in financial planning. Well, this college planning area, it really came to light this week when I see the news, and I see the news about Britain exiting the European Union, called the Brexit. And I see Puerto Rico defaulting on its bonds. And I look at the whole world issue, the economy of the world, Greece, and even our own country and our own issues. And I look at the overall situation, and you'd come away with that thinking the world's a mess. And then I realize the same old adage, work on the things that you can control. Be aware of those things that you can't, that might impact your world, but focus on the areas that you have direct control over and be aware of the other areas. So we look at your own lives, and we look at trying to capitalize and be the most efficient with what you do have. That's your limited funds, your limited incomes, your limited assets, and your limited resources, your personal goals. And those are what we try to work with predominantly. We take into consideration all of the external forces that are happening, everything that's happening around the world that could impact your plans. But we still keep direct focus on your plans. So I'll start here in financial planning many times and say, are you spending everything that you make? Or are you able to carve out some that you're able to save? And we'll start working there. So we're working from bottom up. When this college planning, I see the Brexit, I see Puerto Rico defaulting on the bonds, I see the world in its turmoil that it is, and I get back to focus. And I say, listen, we have to do our own college planning. We have to be as efficient as we can in there. So I get back to this series and I say, in spite of what's going on in the world, we need to focus and be the most efficient on college planning that we can be right now, because that's the segment of financial planning we're working on. In the other shows, up till now, I've talked about a lot of these areas, and I'm going through my resources with you today, and I'm going to highlight over this show and the next show and wrap up this series, mainly the different categories and areas in college planning, how to pay for college. So I'll start with, again, and this is a refresher, this show and the next show, on all the resources I've talked about over this series. So you might want to get a pen and write this down, or record this show or watch it later, and it is available. Or call my office. I'll help you get access to any of these resources. They're public resources. So the first, I want to remind you, prepaid college plans, prepaid tuition plans. You know, we already talked about that. They're basically gone. We do have the Pennsylvania plan. I have a website here for you. And when we get to Pennsylvania, I need you to go to, if you want to inquire about this, www.patap.org. That's P like Pennsylvania, A, T like Tom, A, and P like Pennsylvania again. So that's the Pennsylvania State Treasury site for their prepaid tuition alternative, because they don't really have the TAP program like they used to, their prepaid tuitions, in the same way. I want you to go to another site. It's called scholarships.com. I am not endorsing any of these sites. I am simply sharing with you some sites that have helpful information, generic information that can help you make decisions. Scholarships.com has prepaid tuition and also savings plan information on scholarships and prepaid tuition. So scholarships is a whole specialty in itself. I want you to think about scholarships. There are some people that say, we're dealing with golf, we're dealing with volleyball. I've talked about that in some shows. We're dealing about a special skill set, whether it's academics, whether it's sports, whether it's something else, a skill set that a family thinks the student might have an advantage or excel at. Could be trumpet, it could be anything, that might help toward paying for college, getting a full scholarship, getting a partial scholarship that you don't have to repay. So there's a whole science, and if you go to one of the bookstores or Amazon, you'll see whole books on lists, thousands of scholarships that are available. I do think you ought to go and look at those. I do think you ought to see what you might be eligible for. I do hear stories over and over again on the show that airs right before mine on WWNL radio. They were talking about scholarships being untapped. Nobody applied. And the ability to be awarded, the eligibility for the award, was so lenient that had anybody applied, even one applicant would have by default been granted the $500 scholarship or $1,000 scholarship for that year, and here it went unfunded. So there are many, many scholarships available. with Lions clubs, Elks, the different associations. I've talked about that in other shows. So you might want to do a web search. You might want to go to the bookstore. You might want to check on Amazon and do a thorough search. Some people send in hundreds of applications searching scholarships like they do coupons in the grocery stores. There are people who are extreme couponers, as you see on the TV. There's a show on that. And they go and they get all their groceries for free. Now, that's a little extreme, but scholarships can potentially work the same way. So I wanted to share that site with you. We have these prepaid college tuition plans. Remember, I talked to you about different states. So we're in Pennsylvania, you're in Maryland, you're in Texas, wherever you're listening to the show or watching the show. All states have their own sort of prepaid tuition plans or some sort of helpful funding alternative. I'm not, again, promoting these. Some of these, once you inquire into them, you don't want. You'll find you won't want if you see they're charging you double or triple today's tuition rate, projecting what they think it should be in the future, and there are no guarantees. So you have to be careful when you look at these. But we don't want to rule out and not look at them as a resource or ignore them and overlook them. So we want to study everything when we do this college planning to make the most out of what you can. Now next, remember we talked about 529 plans. 529 plans, again, are state by state. Usually each 529 plan is with a financial institution, and it is, I'll call it, domiciled in one state. It could be Alaska, it could be Virginia. It's most likely a state other than your own. When you check with some of these sources, hey, I want to look at your 529 plan. You call someone else, I want to look at your 529 plan. Do your research, find out what the options are, how the money will be worked inside the plan, what growth or accumulation potential is there, what versatility do you have, how often can you make choices and changes, etc. But when you look at those plans, there are strategies, like I said, grandparents opening up plans to move money out of their estates, to move money out of their probate issues, to move money for whatever reasons. Instead of doing direct gifting, sometimes grandparents will gift to a 529 plan. Don't forget, parents and grandparents can gift, and non-relatives can gift to anybody, to the universities itself, and pay qualified tuition expenses, and it does not count against the annual gifting maximums. We won't get into that again right now. I did that on the shows in this series. But don't forget, gifting is an important strategy for college planning. Some people will do many different areas in college planning, and it's very complex or it's very simple, whatever you want it to be. But these 529 plans, when you're shopping for them, you'll want to shop for the companies, you'll want to shop for the states, you'll want to make sure that they're universal, and they are. In almost every case, when you look at a 529 plan, it doesn't matter what state it's quote-unquote domiciled in. They're going to be applicable for every state in the universities that you want to go to for the education. And you want to double check that, but that's what you'll typically find. And that's the 529 plans. Now, when we get past this, back to the Pennsylvania, I shared with you the Pennsylvania Treasury, Department of Treasury, has those two plans. Don't forget, they have what they call a guaranteed savings plan, and they have what they call an investment plan. You can make a choice if you choose to participate all or any portion of your resources that you want to set aside toward college. So you might want to say, I think we ought to diversify. I don't think we ought to choose the one best plan for what's best to fund our college. I think we should diversify. And you might say, I want to do partial in 529s, partial in Pennsylvania plan, partial in these different strategies, partial in those different strategies. You might want to diversify the strategies and the types of vehicles you're using. So that can make a lot of sense. But when you get to the Pennsylvania Department of Treasury and you look these things up, you'll look up college savings plan with them, or you'll look up PA 529. That's what you'll do. And you'll look at the PA 529 plan, and it'll say guaranteed savings plan or investment plan. Be very careful. If you need help, give our office a call. Be very careful, because when you hear guaranteed savings plans, you think they're guaranteed. I think they're guaranteed. They're not totally guaranteed the way you think. So what you need to do is get in there and study, because it is possible that through your best efforts, you're putting funds in the Pennsylvania Guaranteed Savings Plan and might find a shortfall and might find that you have to add additional. You thought you were fully paying for all the credits needed for a 4-year degree and still have to come up with a shortfall even on the Guaranteed Savings Plan. So I caution you on that. Be very, very careful with this. None of this is easy, but you ought to know that. And when you know that in advance, it can help you plan. Now, here's another site, savingforcollege.com. They also talk about the Pennsylvania 529 plans. They talk about many other alternatives for saving for college. They talk about tax breaks if you go through your own state plan versus go through an out-of-state plan. And that can be an important consideration, by the way, when you do that. You might look at the state tax recapture programs and you say, wait a minute, if I go through one of the 529 plans or prepaid tuition plans in Alaska or Virginia and I'm in Pennsylvania or I'm in Maryland, am I treated worse or better than if I used our own in-state program? And do comparisons and do calculations on that. And that's exactly what I want you to do. Also remember, residents sometimes get better treatment on their own state plans or better benefits than out-of-state residents. So you want to pay attention to that. Now, there's the uPromise I talked about. uPromise is the letter U and then promise. So there are 2 sites, additional sites I'll give you. The first one is upromise.com. The second is pa529.com. They intermingle information on there, but you'll want to look them both up. You'll want to see there are minimums to invest if you go through those types of plans. But those are some websites that can be real helpful for you, that PA529. And then you go out into, and I want you to print or at least research. I'll hold up for you, those of you looking on the TV, and for those on the radio can't see it, but there are actually 2 reports I have, exactly the same report. And it is the Pennsylvania 529 Guaranteed Savings Plan Credit Rate Schedule. The difference with the 2 reports is one of them is I went back and got the 2012 to 2013. The other is I went and got the 2015 to 2016. Look through the rates, look through the credit rates on there and see the differences year to year, and you'll see what I mean about not everything is guaranteed in most of these plans, and things are subject to change. Even the plans state that, so be careful. Now, another site, and I talked about this in other shows, I want you to go to kiplinger.com. I find that an excellent site, by the way, Kiplinger Magazine and kiplinger.com. So I want you to go to those sites. There are articles on there all the time, but one of them that I had gone through in a prior show, using savings bonds to pay college costs. Remember the last couple of shows I talked about savings bonds? Double E savings bonds for college? Nobody thinks about that. Most of us are never even made aware about that. But there are ways to, if your bonds are purchased in the right years and they're owned by the right people, and then they're liquidated and you have qualifying tuition expenses against them, if you cash them in to pay for college tuition properly, the interest that's otherwise taxable on those bonds might be tax-free, might be not taxed. So that's huge. We look at that. So those are step 1 of my review in my series that I'm wrapping up on with this college planning. I do the uPromise here that we talked about, and we get to those sites, there are, in all of these strategies I have laid out, and I have laid them out in this show, in this series, there are good things, benefits, there are bad things, drawbacks. Every single one of these strategies is best for some and worst for others, due to many reasons, maybe tax consequences, like the savings bonds. You might make, like the 529s. If your income's too high, if your assets are too high, you may not qualify for some of these. You may need another one. Do you see what I mean? Or a low income, low tax strategy might be, we pull from taxable accounts even though they're not tax-free. We don't need the savings bond rules. We might pull straight from an IRA, pay the pre-59.5 penalty, and pay the tax on the IRA, and we still owe no tax because we're in a very low income tax bracket or zero income tax bracket. We don't pay taxes. Or we may use one of the accounts from our grandparents who are on Social Security only and have their drawing from their IRAs and don't owe any tax. So everybody's different. There is no strategy that is the best strategy for one or many. That's just not how it works. What does work is we analyze and we scrutinize and we get under the hood and we look in the engine of all these strategies and we see their pros and cons, their benefits, how they work, where their drawbacks are, what's best and most efficient design for us, individually, us. And that's what we do on a one-by-one, case-by-case basis. That's financial planning. Otherwise, we're just spreading news and saying, here's what's beneficial, everybody ought to do that. Well, we're not a newspaper. We're actually going through and doing financial diagnostics, and we're doing financial planning. And regarding college planning, you first have to be aware of all these strategies, and then you do your research, engineering which ones filter through the system of being better than the others for you, finally resulting in no, not the best, but rather some of the ones that are better than all of the rest to implement in your own strategies. That's how it works, folks. We're never looking for the best in financial planning. I take that back. We are always looking for the best. We just can never find the best because every strategy has drawbacks, not only in college planning, but everything we do. So we then resort to finding the better than all the rest for our own particular situations with the drawbacks we can best afford, so they won't hurt us as much as the drawbacks on some of the other plans, and the benefits that are greater for us perceptually than the benefits on the other plans. So it's a filtration system. They funnel down, and then we find which ones are the most appropriate for us. And we might, again, diversify the top 3 or 4 strategies rather than all one, try to pretend like it's the best, have something go wrong, we guessed wrong. So we sometimes diversify strategies too. All right, folks, that's the end of our stage 1 of wrapping up this program. Well, I'll be back next week with the final wrap-up of the remainder of the resources I want to share with all of you on this college planning. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll be back again next week.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Inc., member FINRA SIPC, and registered investment advisor. Insurance services offered through Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services Inc., which is not affiliated with SagePoint Financial Inc.